Hello, everybody. You're welcome to Just for Men Africa, and my name is Olaleko Amusa, the founder of Just for Men Africa. And today we're on an interview all the way from the UK. We have with us Baba Ipega. Baba is the CEO and founder of the EMC agency, a company based in the UK and of course across Africa because he gets a lot of jobs in Africa. He'll be talking to us about why he decided to start the agency, his plans for the future, and of course anything that comes up during the interview. So stick around and we'll be right back. Okay, everybody, you're welcome back to Just for Men Africa. And we have those Baba. Baba, you're welcome to Just for Men Africa.
Thank you, Legon. Thank you. Good morning from all the way across the Sahara Desert.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Okay, Baba, could you talk to us about the EMC agency? What is it exactly about?
Oh, it's nice that you started with that because EMC Agency is my new agency, which is a bigger marketing and communications agency. But it's evolved from 24 years ago when I started a company called EMC3, which stood for Events, Marketing, and Conferencing. And that company, pretty much we have events across the world which we put together and produce for clients. These clients range from high net worth individuals to international corporations that pretty much wanted to articulate their message to their customers through events. And from there, a few years back, I sold my majority share in EMC3, and the EMC agency now, we advise and consult on super brand events across the world, including Nigeria, of course, where we help brands or companies or banks like GT Bank or GT Co, as it's called, and First Bank. We're bringing in talent for events as well as producing hybrid events, which we're all very familiar with now, which is online streaming events in front of an audience or delegates up to 1,000 people, but streaming to over 10,000 people.
Okay, well said, Baba. Okay, why do you think there was a need to do a marketing and communication agency? Do you think companies around the world have problems with that?
I think what's happened in the past decade since I've been going back and forth to Nigeria is I've realized, especially in Africa, that they're very, very, very brilliant companies, but that they don't articulate their message in a concise and I would say fluid way as they do in Europe. So I felt there was a niche in marketing and communications for companies that work out of Africa into the world. And I wanted to specialize in that region because I believe with Africa and the Middle East, there's a lot of companies that need their message much more refined in a way that connects with their customers or their clients and also accentuates and enhances what brand Africa and brand Middle East is about. So I thought I was a person to bring this to the fore and to help them with the articulation needed. It's very exciting.
What do you think companies are doing wrongly that they're not able to pass on their messages, correctly?
I think now, with this age of iPhones or no phones, and everyone is individual, but we know collectively we are of the same mind. I think people want to be communicated to individually. But that's very hard on a mass basis. With social media as it is, you have a lot of influencers that do that. They connect with people very well. But I think these corporations themselves, they need a bit more energy, a bit more emotive link to their customers. And there's something within events that you don't just want to go to an event, chop jollof rice and go home. You want to give a message to your people. You want them to take home something and to have a feeling about your brand that is warm and fuzzy. So that's what I would think. They need more warm and fuzzy.
You've been doing this for the last couple of years. I'd like to blow your trumpet. Which clients have you worked with over the years?
Oh, I've been very blessed with my client base because of my background in banking and more in the last couple of decades in events. I've been able to meet a myriad of corporations and individuals. These range from motorsports design companies that I advise and consult for, called Driven International. They helped expand the racetrack. Sadly, in Abu Dhabi, where Lewis Hamilton was overtaken by Verstappen 3 years ago, the company I work for, Driven, they actually helped expand that turn that allowed that to happen, which was Nigerian Brits were very gutted about. But another company is GT Co. The GT Co Fashion Weekend, and also their food and drink. I help with bringing in the right kind of talent, chefs, designers to those events. And also company First Bank is one of my dear clients, which we help procure, or should I say produce events, hybrid events, the First Bank Annual Merit Awards. Also in England, we have clients like LinkedIn, Google. Facebook is another client that I've worked for in Nigeria as well. And Yale University is a great client of ours. There's NYU University, that's the New York University as well. So we do scholastic production for clients as well as international PLC companies. So we're very blessed with that, and motorsports, which is the dear part of my business.
Yeah, I can see you mentioned motorsports like twice. So what exactly do you do for motorsports?
With the motorsports company Driven International, I'm the Africa representative. So specifically when we have inquiries coming from, like we have one in Nigeria at the moment, which is I can't say too much about it, but it's in the Lekki Free Trade Zone, and where they ask us to put together some kind of feasibility study, which is an exercise you go through with any company that's been construction or development to see if you can actually build something in the space they have. So what I do myself specifically is I help with I'm a wordsmith, so I help with the articulation of the brochure, of what the presentation is about. I bring in the designers, I put it all together, and that's what I do for this company, the motorsports company. And we did that in the same in Saudi Arabia, and as we said, in Abu Dhabi, in South Africa as well. We were working on a campaign to bring F1 back to Africa, which is a couple of years away, and in Kenya. So that's what I do there.
That's nice. I can see you have your hands in all countries all around the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's very important as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it is. And one curious one which is on my mind, what do you do for Yale University?
Yale University has an Africa, I suppose, sponsorship support project, which is Africa, China. Africa is changing. The geopolitics, as we know at the moment, there's going through a very dynamical change away from the old European bases to we're being wooed by the likes of Asia and China specifically, and Russia as well. So for Yale University has a very deep fundamental link to African Americans, and it goes back sadly to the slave trade, where a lot of Yale's institutions were supported by African American built construction, as well as slavery, sadly, in the past. So now they've realized this, and they're looking to fund more projects in Africa to help with bringing bright students across the pond, as we say, or across the ocean to America, to be in scholars or to train in different fields. So what I do is the conference in Nigeria and Kenya and South Africa, I helped produce those to bring people together from Asia as well as from America to discuss how Africans, which is pushed by the African American professors, it's called the Macmillan Foundation in Yale, to push that agenda to help bring out the brightest and the best from Africa to go to Yale.
That's well said. All right, so young people out there who want to be an entrepreneur like yourself, what advice will you give to them? Will you tell them, entrepreneurship is great, like we all hear, we all read, it's better having your own job than having a 9-to-5 job? Is that the kind of advice you would give somebody else?
I think it's important that we talk about entrepreneurship in its reality. Take off the gloves, as we say. And it's something that is not easy. No job is easy, don't get me wrong. But I really believe to those young budding entrepreneurs, obviously, there's some kids that grow up at the age of 13, 14, they're already trading, doing this kind of buying and selling in fintech. They understand. That's great. But for me, I was trained in the city. I spent 6, 7 years in the city in banks, understanding how institutions work, how corporations work, how macroeconomics works in the empirical basis where you could learn a lot. And from there, I sprung, should I say, into becoming an entrepreneur. And I thought that grounding was so important. Even now, I still manage and produce my wife, the Venus Bushfires is a stage name, Helena Pega's world's first pidgin English opera. That is one of my assets as an entrepreneur. But I always believe don't put all your eggs in one basket. So I work in music with my wife, and then I work in motorsports with Driven International. I work in producing banks events as well. I think banks are very steady, to be honest. That's a good funding for an entrepreneur to work and consult on. So I always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And in different industries, try and get clients in different industries, even if it's only 2 or 3. So you spread your risk, and that's the key.
I like that, spreading your risk. Okay, so over the years, I'm sure you made a couple of mistakes along the way. If you, in your quiet moments when you think back, what are some of the mistakes that you've made and you thought that, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this rather. Could you tell us about a couple of those?
Wow, that's a deep question, actually, because obviously we all make mistakes, and some are worse than others. And I think for me, the mistake in my years was not finding the right kind of clients early on and concentrating on one funnel of clients in the way of an industry. Because we got caught a couple of times with the credit crunch, I would say in 2007, 8, 9, and the financial crisis. Obviously, a lot of people got caught with the COVID crisis a few years back. But I think for me, I was too tunnel visioned in my business, where even my partners as well as my clients, I was too tunnel visioned in just concentrating on one side of it. And also with youth comes an exuberance of jollofing. And maybe I jolloffed a bit too much when I was younger. When I was doing events for motorsports, we used to, before I even started this EMC agency, when I was EMC3, we used to do a lot of the Grand Prix Formula One events around the world. So I'll travel to Monza, Monaco, Silverstone in UK, of course, in Britain, and some of the racetracks. And I didn't concentrate on the business as much as I should have. I was enjoying life tremendously. So I lost a few easy years in those times, in Saint-Tropez or in Paris. But it was fun. It was fun. But I think now, as an older statesman, graying and wiser, hopefully, I realize that I spent a lot of time enjoying life. And that was fun. And in a way, maybe it's helped me calm down now. But I did lose a few years.
All right, losing a few years, will you blame that on the youthful exuberance or the fact that you didn't have a mentor behind you?
That's a good statement, actually, because I have mentors. I call them gurus in different industries. They're my gurus in Nigerian industrial business, like the great Olorugun Oscar Ibru. He's always been a guru of mine. And then I have guru like a gentleman from Australia whose name is Stephen Collins. He was in insurance, very much a fintech insurance guy. And then I have friends who are gurus. They can be younger than me. Mentors can be older or younger, like my good friend Ladi Balogun, he's a guru, and Mr. Shegu Agbaje, he's a guru. So I've always had people who I can turn to, who have been able to advise me on which steps to take or not to step. But as you know, you don't know how clean your hands or dirty your hands are until you wash them yourself with soap. And that's an old Okrika saying. My mother was Okrika in Shekiri, even though I'm a Yoruba man. But I think that's something that mentors are very important. But sometimes you need to heed their word more or have your own experiences, because as long as you keep your health going. Health is very important in my regime. I like walking a lot. I jog once or twice a week, and I swim once a week. So I think those are parts of what I needed to do when I was younger. So I would keep my health up. And it wasn't exuberance of youth. And I think mentorship, I should have taken it on earlier. But lately, I understood that that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, good health is very, very important. Very, very important. Okay. So you're the founder and CEO of your agency right now, and things seem to be looking good for you. How are you able to balance, being a CEO with family life together with your regular life? How are you able to match all that? Of course, you're married, you have kids. How are you able to manage that as a man?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think it's very important how to manage your life. As a man of older, I've passed 50 now. I have to admit that. I have a lovely wife who's 10 years younger than me, and she keeps me on my toes. And I have two daughters who are 5 and 7 now. They keep me on my toes. And for me, the most important thing about selling my business previously was that I would have a lump sum to be able to invest in my children's future. As we know, that's always, school fees is not easy, even in England, where you have early years, at least you have the state supporting you as they can. But it's also very important that your child is well-rounded. So for me, selling my majority share in EMC3 and starting my own agency in my own advisory position was important that I was able to walk my kids to school in the morning and cycle with them, as well as help my wife with her career. So I had to sacrifice a bit of my business to be able to do that. And sorry, there's some noise coming through. It's part of life. Yeah. But yeah, I was able to balance my life because I became more liquid and I felt more financially secure. I managed to buy a house. And with the lockdown, one can work from home as well as work in the office, and I do a balance too. So it's a day-to-day or week-to-week balance where I say, okay, how many days do I want to go into the office? How much time can I spend with my wife? Having date nights is very important. How as an entrepreneur can I keep my business going without losing it and my staff as well, whether in Nigeria or in England or around the world? How do I balance that? And this digital age we're in with Zooms and online communication has helped that a lot. But I think the fun of it is also having the right connections and people you can talk to. Like some of my friends like Giancarlo Esposito, who's an actor. He's in the Star Wars saga himself. He was a great man previously in different films. He was in Do the Right Thing with Spike Lee. He helps me find the right connections in America, as Ice-T does, the rapper. He finds me good connections when people come here. So I don't have a day-to-day job, 9 to 5. My job is 24/7, but I can choose my pockets of when I have holidays. And that's very important. I think it takes time to get to that stage. It's taken me 20 years to get to this stage, but it is something you should work at from the beginning to be able to free yourself. Almost say you're semi-retired, but you're not tired, just semi-retired.
I'm loving this interview. We should ask more questions, but we're running out of time. Okay, so could you tell us what's the future for the EMC agency?
And I want to be able to play a part in marketing and communications as a company or an agency to help businesses, governments, as well as parastatals of governments and agencies to focus on the objective of lifting people out of poverty in Africa. So for me, it's to do more events to work in sustainable goals, working with African companies that are looking to put together conferences that progress our, climate change status, as well as growing more trees in the articulation of the events through bringing in the right partners, but also helping banks and individuals to focus on what they want to do for their customers. I think we will be able to help with that. I work with the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission on bringing business and FDI or foreign direct investment to Nigeria. So I want to expand that side of the business, as well as grow our, motorsports activities, working with companies that work in motorsports to help youth coming through in innovation, STEAM and STEM clubs, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, of course. So I want to be able to play a part in bringing all that side together to harmonize a progression of Africa, not just Nigeria, but Africa as a whole.
What's your advice to men all over Africa who feel the hustle of being a man, who they feel the hustle of providing, who feel the hustle of, having a healthy bank account, who have the hustle of, being an entrepreneur, having a wife, looking after a child? Like you said, school fees is not easy. What's your advice to them?
I would say to men that are burgeoning and rising up now as entrepreneurs or business people, that your colleagues or your associates are obviously, I would say, percentile-wise, half of women, more than half of the population are women than men. We have to work with women. Your mother is a woman, or was a woman, if she's not alive like mine. You had a lot of love for women. I think you need to have that love and respect for women as well. As you're growing older and wiser in your business, they are allies, they are friends. Work with women. Women, as you know, Fela Kuti's mom was a market trader before Nigeria was even made independent in those days. Those women in Abeokuta across that were protesting against the English at the time, across Nigeria, as it was called in those days, before Nigeria was called, they were powerful. We have we have a foundation of women who are very strong and maybe not so connected as men are. We men get on very well, but we can be allies together. Gender should not be a paralysis of our progression. I think work more with women, respect women. It's not just chewing gum style, respect women for their brain and intellect, and make your own decisions. And don't fear to make your own way of thinking known. But don't be too aggressive with your own thoughts, if you get what I mean. In that, I'm saying, you don't have to be the one that has the last word. And listen. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, as my father used to say. Listen to what people have to say, and you will get on much better with people. And count. Don't get angry with people. There's no need. Life is too short. Just listen, and you will find out much more from people, and you draw out people from that, and you have affiliations that progress you and the other person as well. So it's a good time.
That's nice. That's a really excellent advice. Just listen and, of course, respect women. We can be allies together. We don't have to be, fighting gender equality and all. All right, Baba, thank you so much for being here with us on Just for Men Africa. Wish you all the best. We look forward to interviewing again in future.
Thank you very much, Legon. Great work, and keep it up. And yes, we'll keep talking.
Definitely. And to our viewers who are watching, do not forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends about Just for Men Africa. And to the next show for Baba and us in the UK, it's a be. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.